This is your USMNT Abroad weekend update from February 16th to February 18th of 2024. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV, and welcome to the US Men's National Team Abroad series, where every single Monday we update you on how the Yanks did abroad over the weekend. And this Friday, we will have the US Men's National Team Abroad midweek update because there are Americans playing during the midweek in the Champions League and Europa League. So on Friday, we have another US Men's National Team Abroad episode for you. And before we start, I'd like to thank everyone that already joined our Patreon. We want to hit 100 Patreons by the time the US Men's National Team Nations League starts. We're obviously kicking off with this beautiful 1950 US Men's National Team replica jersey as a giveaway for everyone that's a Patreon member. Don't worry, none of the content here is going to go behind a paywall. We're not going to do that. We're against that. But anyhow, if you want to join, support the channel, join in possible future meetups, giveaways of jerseys that are unique like this one, and possible tickets. And if there's enough Patreons, we plan on even paying for trips for some viewers to go to games with me. We're going to get to that at some point when it grows. But thank you very much, everyone that already joined early on while we're still figuring things out. The link to the Patreon is in the description in case you give a With that said, drop a like before we start, and let's begin. And as always, we start with the Americans in the top 5 leagues in Europe, the first one being the Americans that play in the English Premier League. So why don't we go to Nottingham Forest and talk about Gio Reyna and Matt Turner. And on Saturday, Gio Reyna and Matt Turner combined for 0 minutes for Nottingham Forest during their 2-0 win over West Ham. Both didn't play at all, as you could tell, because they combined for 0 minutes. Gio Reyna has been there for 3 weeks, where he has been available for 3 games, and he played a total of 29 minutes. And look, some will say, be patient. He just got there, right? It's just been 3 weeks, which is actually quite a bit of time. But anyhow, they're just going to say, be patient. But when it comes to this loan, how much time does Gio Reyna actually have left? With roughly 1/4 of the season left on this loan, in a team that has established starters playing in the position that Gio Reyna could play, fighting against relegation, which leads to the coach being overly cautious with any changes. Does anyone still think Gio Reyna heading to Nottingham Forest was a good move? He played well when given minutes, but he does not fit Nottingham Forest and their proposed style of play. His minutes will only go up if they have injuries or suspensions, or they're down 1 or 2-0, and he's going to get those late match cameos like he did for Dortmund also. If you're going to ride the bench at Nottingham Forest, you might as well have stayed on the bench for Dortmund. I firmly believe my conspiracy theory, that might not actually be a conspiracy at all, that Nottingham Forest only took him in because Nuno, their manager, has the same agent as Gio Reyna, Jorge Mendes. That's my conspiracy. I have allegedly, right? Gotta say allegedly. I have nothing to back that besides the fact that that is Gio Reyna's agent and Nuno's agent. But again, I just don't think this was a good move. I said that before it happened. I said it when it happened. And now 3 weeks later, I continue to believe it wasn't a good move. The only thing we can hope from it is that Gio matures and just becomes a better player once he's back with Dortmund during the summer, or he finds a new home. Next up would have been Chris Richards, but he plays this Monday for Crystal Palace, which means he's going to be in the midweek recap on Friday. So next up, we have another American center back in the Premier League, and that is Austin Trusty from Sheffield United. And on Sunday, Trusty started off the bench and was subbed in the 31st minute due to a Sheffield United player getting a red card, and they ended up losing 5-0 to Brighton. And I have honestly nothing to add here. As Thumper said in Bambi, if you can't say anything nice, don't say nothing at all. Even though I say a lot of bad things very often, I really don't follow that motto as a professional hater, so sometimes I don't have anything nice to say, and I still say it. Next up, we have the Americans that play for Fulham, A-Rob and Tim Ream. And on Saturday, A-Rob and Ream both started for Fulham during their 2-1 loss to Aston Villa in the English Premier League. A-Rob went the full 90 minutes, and Tim Ream was subbed out around minute 76 or 75. The first goal Fulham conceded was mostly on Anthony Robinson. For some reason, he made a very poor decision while taking a throw-in by sending the ball towards a Villa player, allowing the goal-scoring opportunity to be created, which ended with Ollie Watkins scoring. It was a very poor throw-in, an awful decision. That was one of A-Rob's rare mistakes this season. But later on, Robinson would redeem himself with an assist. He would send in a low cross that would end up with a goal scored by Rodrigo Muniz. So he essentially assisted that goal. That's what I'm trying to say. As for Tim Ream, I thought he did fine in the game. He was mostly solid throughout the match. He had some good recoveries, was good on the ball. Again, he did fine. Okay, we're done with the Americans that play in England. Now let's go to Italy and talk about the Americans that play there. But before we even start this section, make sure you hit the like button if you haven't already. It's free. Free is good. And it's a great way to support the channel without any additional cost. Okay, let's talk about Christian Pulisic and Yunus Musa from Milan. And on Sunday, Pulisic and Musa both started off the bench for Milan during their 4-2 loss to Monza. Pulisic was being rested due to the Europa League match that he played on Thursday. I guess the same could be said about Yunus Musa, and that's why other players like Rafael Leão, Olivier Giroud were all on the bench. However, with Milan down 2-0 at halftime, Pioli decided to send in Captain America and the Avengers to the rescue. Actually, he only sent in Pulisic and Rafael Leão, which is close enough. I mean, it's not really the Avengers. It's not the Hulk, Iron Man, the real Captain America, whoever else makes it to the Avengers. I guess Spider-Man might be in the Avengers. I don't know. I haven't watched it in a while. But all you need to know is that he sent in Pulisic and Rafael Leão at halftime. But then Jovic decided to screw things up even more by getting a red card early in the second half, which taught all of us a very valuable lesson. No matter how shit the situation is that you are in, it can always get worse. Pioli then decided to call in the best looking player of Milan's big three, Olivier Giroud. So now, with Giroud, Rafael Leão, and Christian Pulisic, that's where the fun started. Pulisic provided the assist for Giroud to score the first goal and give Milan hope. It was a nice little flick off his head to assist the French forward. And then Pulisic was looking very good, taking on defenders, very active, and that eventually led to a golazo scored by Christian Pulisic to tie the game, where he cuts inside with his left foot to hit a beautiful, powerful strike to level it at 2-2. No, seriously, it was a beautiful goal, a tremendous goal. If you haven't seen it, go check out the highlights. I can't put it here in the video because they'll take down the channel. He cuts inside and just smashes a beautiful left-footed shot to tie the game. It seemed like Pulisic had rescued Milan at the 88th minute, but then they shat the bed again. Milan conceded 2 late goals and lost 4-2, but Pulisic's goal drought ended with a spectacular second half performance from the American. As for Yunus Musa, he came in the last 5 minutes when Milan was down 2-1. I don't have much to say about his performance. There's not enough minutes to rate it. So we move. But not countries. We're still in Italy, because now we're going to talk about Weston McKennie and Tim Weah from Juventus. And on Saturday, McKennie started and played the full 90 minutes for Juventus during their 2-2 draw with Hellas Verona. As for Weah, he came off the bench around minute 81. Juve is always a tough watch under Allegri, I'll tell you that. And Weston McKennie managed to be among their best players once again. Defensively, he was incredible. On the ball, he played his role. He did fine. I would argue that he has been probably their most consistent player this season. He's not a world-class player that will single-handedly carry you to glory, but he's a fantastic player that if surrounded by world-class and elite players, he can be in a trophy-winning team while being a key contributor. Now, the game that Juve played against Hellas Verona that ended 2-2, it was kind of weird. The match was weird. It usually is with Allegri, but this one was very weird. It was packed with moments in transition, but it was essentially a clinic of how not to counterattack. Not a great game despite having 4 goals. And the result was awful for Juventus. It was just a terrible match. The penalty kick for Juventus did come off a play that happened thanks to a long throw-in from Weston McKennie, for whatever that's worth. It's not an assist or a hockey assist, but I guess McKennie was involved. And look, Juventus was bad, but McKennie was good once again, and that's what most of us care about. With that said, before we continue, a quick word from our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Their link is on the description if you want to check it out, and we have a promo code. All right, we'll be back in a minute. And thank you, Underdog Fantasy, for sponsoring Tactical Manager TV. Underdog Fantasy is a fun game to play prior to any soccer match, or basketball, or football as well, but we don't talk about those two in Tactical Manager TV. Sometimes basketball during live watch-alongs. I have been playing Underdog Fantasy for over a year now. You can download the app by using the link on the description of this video, and you can also use the promo code TMTV. And Underdog will be matching your first deposit for up to $100. And in the process, you'll be helping the channel avoid bankruptcy. The game I mainly play is called Pick'em. You just click on it, scroll to the soccer section, and pick a player for a specific match and select the stats that you believe will be lower or higher. It's very easy to play, but be smart about your picks because it's not easy to win. I'll be playing some Underdog Fantasy during some match live streams or match live watch-alongs, so stay tuned for that, as I will be forced to cheer for a player or root against him. Now, I am a professional hater, so I'll probably be rooting for the player's downfall. Once again, don't forget to use the promo code TMTV and use the link on the description of this video. Thank you, Underdog Fantasy, for sponsoring the channel. Next up, let's go to the Americans in the Bundesliga, and we'll start with Brendan Aaronson from Union Berlin and John Brooks from Hoffenheim because they clashed over the weekend. And on Saturday, Brooks stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes for Hoffenheim during their 1-0 loss to Union Berlin. As for Brendan Aaronson, he started off the bench and was subbed in the 66th minute for Union Berlin and scored the goal that gave them the win. Brendan Aaronson came back from the dead out of nowhere to give Union Berlin the win. Aaronson scoring for Union Berlin to get them the win and possibly getting Pellegrino Matarazzo fired from Hoffenheim might actually be a massive contribution for the US men's national team. We might have Berhalter's replacement this summer in case he flops in the Copa America. An unemployed Matarazzo might actually take the job if offered. Now, that obviously depends if you think Berhalter's job is actually at risk, which I personally think it's not. It would take a lot for the Federation to fire our beloved or not so beloved PE teacher. Now let's go to the two Americans that play for Borussia Mönchengladbach, Joe Scally and Pifak. And on Saturday, Pifak and Scally both started for Gladbach during their 2-0 loss to Leipzig. Pifak surprisingly played the full 90 minutes after coming back from injury, and Joe Scally was subbed out around minute 59 after a disappointing performance as a right wingback. Next on the list, we have Kevin Paredes from Wolfsburg. And on Saturday, Paredes started and played the full 90 minutes for Wolfsburg during their 1-1 draw with Borussia Dortmund. I thought Paredes looked good as a left winger in the first half. He did miss a header that probably should have been a goal or at least hit the target. It was a good goal-scoring opportunity. Besides that, he looked really good. In the second half, it looked like he was moved to a left-back position, but I sort of stopped watching around that time because they kept, interrupting the game due to fans protesting by throwing tennis balls into the field, which I have nothing against their protest, but at some point I had enough of it and I just went on to watch a different game. Next up, we have Leonard Maloney from Heidenheim. And on Saturday, Maloney started and played the full 90 minutes for Heidenheim during their 2-1 loss to Bayer Leverkusen in the Bundesliga. And just one thing before we leave Germany, Leverkusen won, Bayern Munich lost, and they might even get knocked out in the Champions League because they lost to Lazio the first leg. Harry Kane, man, this guy, I don't know, such a good player, but he just has the worst allergies when it comes to trophies. It's seriously depressing. I feel bad for the guy. Now let's go to Spain and talk about the Americans that play in La Liga. The first one being Luca de la Torre from Celta de Vigo. And on Saturday, Luca de la Torre started and played the full 90 minutes for Celta de Vigo during their 2-1 loss to Barcelona. Late 2-1 loss, shall I say, as Barcelona scored in added time off a penalty kick that had to be taken twice. And I have one thing to say. Luca had a 6.9 FootMob rating, which is essentially a 69. Nice. Still in Spain, we have Johnny Cardoso from Real Betis. And on Sunday, Johnny started once again for Real Betis and played the full 90 minutes for them during their 0-0 draw with Deportivo Alaves. Again, another solid performance from Johnny Cardoso that has had zero issues adapting to La Liga. Nothing tremendous, but he has been solid or very good in every single game so far. And I don't think it would be too crazy for Greg Berhalter to start Johnny Cardoso against Jamaica when the US men's national team faces them next month for the Nations League semifinals. Now let's leave Spain and go to France and talk about one American that we have there. I'm not going to talk about Emmanuel Sabi this week because I don't feel like it. So we're going to talk about Floating Balogun from Monaco. And on Sunday, Balogun started and played 71 minutes for Monaco during their 2-1 loss to Toulouse in Ligue. And this one was another Balogun stinker, unfortunately. So he had a few bright moments early in the second half, combining with his teammates and Minamino. He got a few shots, but he ended up with no goals. losing most of his ground duels, and made a crucial mistake off a corner that led to Toulouse scoring their second goal. He also got subbed out immediately after that mistake. In case you're wondering what the mistake was, it was a cross coming from a corner, and Balogun went towards the ball in a very awkward way for whatever reason. He failed to clear it, and the opponent scored. It was pretty bad. You can go check out the replays yourself, but it was just not good, and it got him subbed right away, right after that play. I'm not overly concerned about Balogun long-term. I think this is just a bad moment for him, bad form. I still think he's overly talented and probably our best center forward, but there are a lot of people that are overreacting a bit too much. Trust me, he's really good. It's just a bad stretch. He'll bounce back. Maybe not this season, but hopefully at latest early next season, or then I'll probably be proven wrong, and that would kind of suck. We're done with the top 5 leagues. Now we're going to go to the Americans that play in the Eredivisie, the Dutch league, starting with the PSV boys, Malik Tillman, Serginho Dest, and Ricardo Pepi. And on Friday, Pepi, Tillman, and Dest all started for PSV during their 2-0 win over Heracles in the Eredivisie. 3 Americans starting for the team that has been dominating the Eredivisie this season. I love it, and so should you. Dest and Tillman played 60 minutes as they were likely being rested for the Champions League knockout rounds during the midweek that they're going to face Borussia Dortmund, and Ricardo Pepi played the full 90 minutes as he's expected to come off the bench during the midweek against Dortmund. So how did the Americans do? Before I even assessed that, I want to add the context that PSV was playing man up pretty much the entire match. The match ended 2-0 and it could have easily been 4-5-0 for PSV. I also want to add the fact that I took a massive nap during the game. But I rewatched the match later in the day. This was on Friday because I was very bored during my Friday night. I don't go out on my Friday nights. So what did I do? I rewatched PSV versus Heracles. Yes, I did. And I thought Malik Tillman played well. He always looked calm, composed on the ball with great vision. For the first goal, he sort of set a screen for Luc de Jong to get a free header. It was a smart move with a little bump into the defender. For the second goal, Malik Tillman was able to poke the ball through during a combination play in very tight spaces through the middle. It was a great assist. Good first touch, vision, quick reaction to poke the ball through and get the assist. Serginho Dest did fine as well, looked good defensively, even though he wasn't really tested throughout the match. On the ball, he has looked good, very technical as always for PSV, and could have easily ended this match with an assist. As for Ricardo Pepi, I saw a few people saying that he played poorly, and I get it. And I saw that on Twitter, and then after rewatching the match, or actually watching it for the first time, you know, I understand that ultimately a center forward is judged based upon his productivity. You got to score. But I disagree with a lot of people. I don't think Pepi played well. Despite not scoring, I thought he did fine. He put himself in positions to score multiple times and could have easily ended this match with a goal or two with better luck or with a little bit more efficiency. He's usually a very good finisher, so I think he just got unlucky for this situation. He did score a goal that was called offsides. And you know what's funny? If that one goal or one of his shots had gone in, no one would be saying that he played poorly. He did fine, in my opinion. He could and should be more efficient when it comes to, you know, finishing. He should score those opportunities, but it was most certainly not a bad performance. You know, he's like that guy that goes to a nightclub and at the end of the night, he doesn't really take any girl home with him, but he gets a few numbers. So he did fine, but he just didn't really score. I think that's the best way to put it. So next up, we have another American in the Eredivisie, and that is Taylor Booth from Utrecht. And unfortunately, I have bad news. On Sunday, Taylor Booth started, and unfortunately, he played roughly 20 minutes for Utrecht because he was subbed out due to an injury. He was also seen on crutches, so that's not good. But at the time of this recording, we still don't know how severe the injury is. It could be a knee injury. That would be terrible, but I'm not sure. There's no update. I'll let you guys know during the midweek. And this sucks because Taylor Booth was actually catching good form with 5 goals scored in the previous 2 matches. Last but not least, in the Netherlands, we have Paxton Aaronson from Vitesse. And on Sunday, Paxton started and played the full 90 minutes for Vitesse during their 1-1 draw with Volendam in the Eredivisie. Zach Booth started and played 82 minutes for Volendam this match. Now we're going to go back to England and talk about the Americans that play in the EFL Championship, the 2nd division of England. And why don't we start with Josh Sargent from Norwich and Ethan Horvath from Cardiff City because they clashed over the weekend. And on Saturday, Sargent started and played 70 minutes for Norwich during their 4-1 win over Cardiff City. Ethan Horvath started for Cardiff and played the full 90 minutes for them while conceding 4 goals. And to be fair to Ethan Horvath, I don't think there was much he could have done for any of those goals. He's definitely not the reason Cardiff lost this one. As for Sargent, he scored once again. But this time, he wasn't happy scoring just one goal, so he scored two. Sargent had a brace. The first goal was off a volley finish while falling from close range. As a center forward, you have to find ways to score, and that's what he did here. For the second goal, he hit a shot off the post and scored off his own rebound. You know, like when a basketball player throws a ball off the backboard and follows up with a dunk, except for the fact that Sargent most certainly did not hit the post on purpose. Or did he? And here are the stats for Josh Sargent ever since he returned from injury this season. He played 9 matches with 525 minutes played. He scored 7 goals. That is 1 goal every 75 minutes. For the entire season, he has 10 goals on a 6.63 XG and a 9.1 XG on target. He's been extremely efficient, and if he did not get injured, he probably would have 20 to 30 goals this season, which is quite remarkable. Next up, we have Haji Wright from Coventry. And on Saturday, Haji Wright started and played the full 90 minutes for Coventry during their 1-0 win away against Stoke City. Still in the United Kingdom, we were going to talk about Cameron Carter-Vickers from Celtic, but he is still injured. He's expected to be back the next 2 weeks, but he didn't play this weekend for them in Scotland. Now let's close by talking about the Americans that play in Mexico in Liga MX, starting with Alejandro Zendejas from Club America. And on Saturday, Zendejas started and played the full 90 minutes for Club America during their 2-1 loss to Pachuca. And from what I heard, Zendejas dropped a stinker. He had a very bad performance. Next on the list, we have Cade Cowell from Chivas Guadalajara. And on Friday, Cowell didn't even make the bench for Chivas. I could not find any reports of an injury, so I'm assuming it's because they rested him due to the midweek game that he played in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Last but not least, we have Brendan Vazquez from Monterrey, but his match is too late on Sunday, and we recorded this prior to his match. So let us know in the comment section down below, how did Brendan Vazquez do? Alright everyone, I want to thank you all very much for watching. Thank you very much for dropping a like in this video, and thank you everyone that joined our Patreon. Once again, the goal is to hit 100 Patreons by the end of next month, which is when the US men's national team plays. And once that is done, we're going to start doing possible meetups, pickup games in the future where the US men's national team plays, better giveaways, maybe game experiences depending on the revenue. I plan to reinvest everything. That's what me and Dustin plan on doing with most of the Patreon money. I want to thank you all very much for watching, and have a great day.